What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch, making some money investing in fractional real estate online, as usual. You can see I've got the Mogul hat on today. We got an email with this new VIP launch. It's a 10-bedroom, 10-bath Padsplit in Houston, Texas. I do want to mention I am using a new laptop now. I've been complaining about that last one for a year, and I wanted you to put a message in the comments if you're having any problem with the video or audio on this. I'm sure I don't have it perfect yet, but I adjusted it to try to work with my microphone and everything. But just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, so what did Mogul send us today? Like I just said, it's a Padsplit, Houston, Texas, 10 bathrooms, 10 bedrooms, all in 2,400 square foot. So very dense, income producing property. If you look at the numbers, it's very much what we've come to expect from Mogul. Just because it is doesn't mean this isn't a great deal, right? I mean, it's 10% year one yield, average yield 14% over the hold period, levered IRR over 15%. I mean, this is exactly the reason that Mogul has become one of my favorites, is that, or really is my favorite platform at the moment. It's where I'm investing the most new money as far as fractional real estate goes. It's because they're just consistently putting out these deals that are great yields. This one's a little bit different, though, so there are a few things to keep in mind. This is brand new construction. It was finished this summer. They have 8 units filled already, 8 of the bedrooms out of 10. And actually, when I looked at the Padsplit listing, they only are showing, where is it? 1 available room. So I'm wondering if they filled one more since they put that email out. I don't know. We've come to figure out that you can't just trust what the Padsplit listing says, because sometimes it's been full or had more. So, it's not always up to date with what the situation really is. But so, it filled up very quickly, but we don't have a year of history like we're used to seeing from Mogul properties, right? One thing that's good is we do have the art house nearby, which is a very similar property. And so, they can extrapolate some of the performance of that property into this one, but it's a little bit different risk profile than we're used to, right? We're used to a stabilized property that's been operating for a year, where we can look at the income that's been in place. But I'll get into the numbers a little bit. I feel like they are doing what they usually do and being conservative with the income that they're projecting. So let's see. First off, like we said, the purchase price $650,000. They're projecting $108,000 in, did I say thousand, Theo? $650,000 purchase price, $108,000 projected yearly rental income. When I looked at the Padsplit listing, they're advertising it at $293 a week. If you multiply that by 52 weeks and 10 bedrooms, you get approximately it's somewhere around $152,000. And so, they're not like trying to project a full that's the gross potential revenue, right? And then we're a little over 2/3 of that as far as what they're projecting. I feel like that's probably pretty conservative. And so I'm very happy with that, despite the fact that we don't have, stabilized numbers. Foundry is stabilized with actuals above year one underwriting. That's a kind of an interesting comment. We see this a lot, but when they're saying actuals, I don't know if they mean like because 8 out of 10, and so what it's doing this month, if we extrapolate that, I'm not really sure, because it's very clearly hasn't been operating for a year. It completed early summer 2025, unless that's incorrect, but I don't believe that it is. Okay. So let's do all the normal spots we want to check. Obviously looking at the flood map. It's especially being in Houston, you need to be concerned about flooding, and we are well outside of the closest flood zone. I'm not going to go into all the Houston area data as far as population and FEMA risks and those sorts of things, or the national hazard map, or whatever we usually look at, because we've done a whole bunch of these now in Houston, and so that's the same for all of them. Obviously, you can go back in the playlist. And if you look at the earlier Houston investments, that's where I'll cover some of that. I'm just trying to make these videos not always be an hour. If you'd prefer me to stick that info in every single one, drop a comment in here and say, no, don't skip it. Just let's hear it every time. I have had some feedback that, I just tend to make really long videos, and why don't we shorten these up a little bit? I always try, but I end up still talking for a long time. Okay, but anyway, flood map looks good. The spot crime map, I was shocked when I pulled this up. This is one of the best looking crime maps that I've seen looking at Houston properties. Now, keep in mind, this is only a few days, right? This isn't like in some of the locations where it's months, but, they had to cast a pretty wide net to fill the map. And so, compared to some of the other properties that we saw in Houston, this looks really clean. Now, could we just be getting lucky and the last couple of days were better than average? I think that's possible. But when I spent some time, and I actually didn't keep that map up, but just walking around in the Google Maps, and it looks in the street view, and it looks pretty clean as well there too. Like, didn't see a lot of signs of like graffiti or broken down cars or too much in the immediate area. And so it is definitely an area that's been changing quickly. And I am just going to bring that up because I don't know why I don't still have that tab up, other than this is like the 5th time I'm starting this video. In between, I went and bought a different laptop and had to like just start over basically. Okay, let's see. Let's look at this. Oh, that's right. I'm not even. Oh, this is ugly. We're not. I'm in Microsoft. I'm not even in. I don't like this at all. Let's see. Let's see if I can just pull up Google Maps on here. Can I do that? Okay. Yep. All kinds of problems today, right? You can tell this is just not my technology stuff. Obviously, is just not my strong suit, right? Real estate, yes. Dealing with computers now. So this is the lot right here. You can tell this picture is from before it was built. We have a bus stop pretty close, which we're always looking for that. Why don't we have? Oh, there's the little guy we can grab, but the stupid screen recorder stuff is in the way. Let's get rid of that. Hopefully that didn't pause my video. Okay, it's doing it again. Okay, there we go. Yeah, sorry kids. This is just an old person doing a video. You know how it is. You can see, yeah, it was just a vacant lot when this was done, but oh yeah, you have the little market. But as far as like, you have some homes that are in disrepair, but I didn't see a whole lot of graffiti. I didn't see like the broken down cars. But it's very clearly an area that's in transition. There's other new construction in the area. Yeah, and obviously I would say just as usual, you want to spend a lot of time doing this if it's a property that you want to spend a lot of money on, because you can learn a whole bunch. Yeah, you can see a lot of trash out there. You can learn a whole bunch about an area, broken down fences. So yeah, it's not fantastic, but it is also there wasn't a lot of things that made me like worried about the crime level, just like how the spot crime map looked pretty good too. So let's see. Going into, we did the crime map, we did the flood map, we did a little walking around, which is really my favorite thing to do. I spend way too much time in that street view. With the new thing, it doesn't, you guys can always see my home address when I do that, huh? With the new thing, it's defaulting to Microsoft Edge. I have to figure out how to fix that. I'm sure I will. All right, let's get back to, though, a couple of things that I worry a little bit about this property. So, we can see the full picture. It's a behemoth of a home, right? It's 3 stories. It's 10 bedrooms and 10 baths crammed into 2,400 square feet. You are just really committing to the Padsplit model if you buy this property. There's not, if something happened and you could, in Houston banned Padsplits, if they did something, if for some reason you couldn't use this model anymore, maybe there was just a lot more competition. There's no second exit, there's no exit strategy for this other than selling. And when you go to sell this, who's going to buy, if you can't use it as a Padsplit, who needs a 10-bedroom, 10-bath home with limited common areas, right? It would have to be reconfigured for that. I'm on the fence on how I feel about it, right? Because obviously buying this single family home where I get 10 bedrooms and 10 baths, it's really hard to find something that's going to compete with that from an income perspective, right? Renting by the room, having 10 bedrooms on a single family lot is amazing. On the flip side, I am worried about the future of, the Padsplit model. I did a video probably about a month ago about like the legality of it, and talked a little bit about a lot of cities. They do want to see more affordable housing, so they're pretty permissive. Padsplit's been defending their model in court as well when that's come up. But I think that over time, as people sort of push this model further and further, at some point, cities are going to create some sort of rules that limit it, right? Like, okay, maybe 10 bedrooms isn't too much, but when we get to 20 in a single family home, there's going to be a limit somewhere. And so I'm more comfortable buying the pad splits that are less bedrooms, right? Like if it's 6 bedrooms, 8 even starts to make me feel a little uncomfortable. When you get to 10, it seems like, geez, that's a whole lot. Is this really a single family home? Because we're in single family zoning. Even though the size of the home isn't large, you're getting a very, density of use, right? And so that it starts to worry me. The other thing, because we don't have a year of performance with this property, and it's a much different property than most of the others that we've seen. There's a third floor. How does do we have more turnover on the third floor than we have in the rest of the property? I think that that's possible. It might just be my inner fat guy talking, but I think people don't like to go up and down 2 flights of stairs every day. Now they do have, it looks like, a second little kitchenette. I'm assuming this is probably on the second or third floor, so that, you don't have to walk all the way down to the first floor to get to the kitchen, which is, I don't know why I assume the kitchen's on the first floor, but I think it is. Because you can see the top of the fence right out there. But, I'm curious, does that third floor retain tenants as well as the first and second? And then the other is, does the property overall retain tenants as well as some of the other units? Because, you're no longer now it's really dense, right? There's 10 other people. You're sharing the kitchen with 10 other people. You've got that many people coming in and out. Does that affect your turnover at all? I don't know that it does. I honestly have no idea. I think we can point to the Art House having been active since last year and seems to have been doing well. So, it seems like there's some demand for this model. It also filled up in, 8 bedrooms filled up in the first month, 8 out of 10. So obviously there's demand for this rent by the room model here. I'm just curious if if properties like this are going to operate in the same way that the ones that are, more like a single family home that we've just added a couple of more bedrooms, right? The one I really liked recently was, I think it was like 6 bedrooms, 6 baths, or 6 bedrooms, 4 baths. I don't know. I think it's really hard for a city to tell you can't have 6 people in a property. But as you get more and more, I think it starts to push the bounds of, obviously I don't think it's a huge risk, but I think that there becomes some risk. I also think the more that in general that operators are doing this, that people are building these and like sticking tons of people in it, the more likely it is going to, show up on the radar of cities, and they're going to be like, wait a minute, is that really a single family home anymore? At what point do we have to start calling this something else, right? Because this is in a single family zoning. The other thing I wanted to mention, when I looked in the public records, this shows up as just a lot at the moment. The property doesn't show up. I expect that because it was just built, right? It just got finished in the summer. One of the things, I've talked to the guys at Mogul a few times, and about a couple different things in their due diligence process. And one thing that they always check is that the properties were properly permitted, and built the way they were supposed to be. So even though we don't have some simple way to check that on every single deal, I've been assured by them that that's part of their due diligence checklist, and they won't close on a property that doesn't meet that. And so similarly to how they handle their inspections, where at this point, I'm just comfortable believing what they tell me, right? And when they do their inspections, I know if something shows up as a repair required, they won't close on it unless that's taken care of by the seller or they're getting a credit, some sort of renegotiation. And so now I know I don't have to like just look through the inspection every time because I know how they handle it. And the same thing as far as with checking on, them doing the due diligence on the permits and whatnot. Now, obviously, it's just because I've gotten used to what they're doing and I trust them. They seem to be operating the way that they say they are. The properties that I've bought have been doing well. That doesn't mean that you should just take their word for it as well. I have asked them, to think about, is there some way they could put a checklist of the things that they are checking, if they can publish it somewhere. I haven't noticed that they did that anywhere. But I think it would make it so that I was more comfortable knowing, okay, they actually do these things every time. It's in writing. Here it is. This is the procedure. So I don't have to keep asking the question. Maybe you guys could bug them for that too. Let's see. Oh, but before I forget, please like and subscribe. In the description to this video, I have links to all the places where I'm currently investing in fractional real estate online. Mogul's one of them. You get, if you are new to sign up, you get some $50 on your first investment, I think. And then there's also a link to the Mogul.Club that I'm a member in. And if you join that club and you invite another member and you invest after you've joined the club, then you end up getting rewards as other people invest as well. I think there's no downside to it. As far as I can tell, it's just free money for doing those things. And they're just trying to encourage you to invite more people to the platform. What else? Oh, and in the description of this video, there's a link to the Discord I have set up. A whole bunch of us talking about fractional real estate investing on lots of different platforms. The Mogul thread is pretty busy. There's plenty of people that are talking about it. Ike is always in there giving us info on these things before I even know they've come out. And there's a bunch of other people that are, that interact on there, share some info as well. So yeah, please feel free to join that. Okay, yeah, back to this. So basically I was just saying, you want to do your own due diligence right on their platform and on any of these properties. Don't just take my word for it, but that is part of their stated processes, at least since I've asked them. So I've stopped trying to check on the permits because it's a cumbersome thing, right? Like you don't want to, depending on what market it is, and you might have to contact the city. It's pretty annoying. It's not always something that's just on their website, on city websites and easy to check. And it's, for something that's new construction like this, I've been assured that that's part of their checklist. Okay. So I feel pretty good about that. We talked about the, I think that this projection as far as, the income side makes a lot of sense. Oh, I always like to uncheck their, where do we go? Am I looking at the wrong one? I'm looking at the wrong one. I always like to uncheck their refinance tab and just see if the deal still looks good. And it always does, right? 14.3 and 15.0. Let's put the refinance back on. 14.5, 15.8. It's not making a big difference at all because most of the income most of your return is coming from the yield, right? And so that's why I like them a lot. You're just getting this current yield quite a bit. Obviously if you haven't played with this tool, you should play with it. You can change just about every assumption in here. So you can stress it a little bit. One of the things I've talked about this in the past, but don't mention it every time. I kind of think that their bull and bear cases, their bull case I think is fine. I'd like to see their bear case get stressed more than they do, because there are some scenarios where you're not going to just make a bunch of money, right? I mean, I think there's there's scenarios where you're much worse than these, right? It's not as if, I don't know. I like to see a worse bear case than that, but I haven't mentioned that in a while, so I figured I'd point that out. But overall, I feel good about their income projections, especially just because they just keep hitting them on the ones that I bought. Where I struggle with some of these is their valuation, and this one is really tough for me. So they provided two comps. I looked them up on the MLS. Both of these are actually duplexes where, our property is technically a single family home. I understand the thought process of going to a duplex because these are bought by investors. They're income producing properties. So in that way, they're more similar to our property than than maybe a lot of the single family homes in the area would be. But when we look at this, if we looked at it from a sales comparable approach, where we're looking at price per square feet, they're saying, okay, the average of these two prices is $655,000, and it's 3.3 thousand square feet. Well, and then we're paying $650,000 for this at 2.4 square feet. So in this scenario, we're overpaying by a ton if you just look at a dollars per square foot perspective. At the same time, we've got 10 bedrooms, 10 baths here versus 6 bedrooms, right? And from an ability to create income, I think this property is probably much better situated than the other two. So from an investor's perspective, it is probably worth about the same, if not more than those, right? A couple of things about these comps I wanted to mention. They are both built last year, so they did pick ones that were reasonably close in time. This actually sold for $590 and the other one sold for $695. So they have those numbers off a tiny bit. The 699.9 and the 600 is like the last list price. Which maybe that's what I think is on the public website. So maybe they just didn't get that, but it's close enough that I think it doesn't matter. Like I said, both of these are new construction duplexes. It's hard to say those are good comps for a single family home. But again, I mean, this is just not a single family home. So that's, I've had this problem. I said similar things about the art house, but some of the other properties as well. It is just really tough. As long as the Padsplit model continues to be a viable model and there's investors in the future that are going to buy this, from that perspective, I 100% believe this value. From a traditional single family home appraisal, I think it's really tough, right? I don't know. It is brand new construction, so they'll probably use a cost approach, which then, it'll be what it is. I don't know what it actually cost them to build this. And they do always have an appraisal contingency, right? So it's not as if they're just going to buy this if they're overpaying from an appraisal perspective. But I just have a really hard time. It makes me worry about the exit, right? It makes me wonder, okay, if sometime in the future this isn't a Padsplit and we're trying to sell it, we're in rough shape, right? Like, this is not, I know I just keep saying that, but like thinking about it from a different perspective, like from the value of it versus, just a new use for it. And, maybe, you just have to like take out some walls, open it up. I think that you could do it. How expensive it would be, I don't know. It's three floors that must be about, I guess they're not all the same size because you have this indent, but about 800 square feet per floor. It would be kind of an awkward single family home. I don't know what else to say about that. Let me see. I just want to go through everything and make sure I didn't miss anything, because I know, especially when I start and stop these a lot. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in this video, but they did say, there's 4 open parking spots remaining, even though there's only 1 room available. I think that's a really good sign. It is a corner lot. There's street parking, but there is you can see in that picture as well. I keep going to the wrong one. That there is a decent amount of parking here also. So I thought that's really good. And it's interesting that they actually they limit the number of vehicles on the property. So this makes me think that there's a lot of the people, don't own a car that are using this. And that's true in a lot of markets where Padsplits are. And that's why proximity to the bus stop is important. Let's see, what else? I think that's the only other thing. I talked about the comps, the valuation, the flood map. But I am curious, how comfortable are you guys with this model? Feel free to jump in the Discord and talk about it, or just put a comment down here. Does it worry you at all? This is just really going all in on a specific business model. It's obviously where the yield is coming from on this, right? And it's why you have strong yield. Although again, we don't have the year of history that we have on most of these. From my perspective, I'm not worried about the revenue and the actually spitting off that yield. I think this is going to, I think that they generally are, the Mogul guys generally are conservative when they're doing their projections for income. And I don't expect that to be a problem. But I do really wonder, I'm just always looking for the downside, right? And for me, it is just scary to think about, what happens if for some reason we can't keep using it as a pad split. I don't know. I think that I'm not sure. I might have already said this, so sorry if I'm repeating it. It's because I did this a couple of times. But when Airbnbs first came around, a lot of people were nervous about, only underwriting it as an Airbnb. Oh, why did my Roblox start up? And my OneDrive, all kinds of stuff happening. What? No, I don't want to record my game. I'm sorry. This is so unprofessional. That's what you used to for me, right, though? But so, people say, oh, well, I'd only buy an Airbnb if it also works as a long-term rental. And well, if you do that, you just buy terrible Airbnbs, right? Because the properties that make great long-term rentals very rarely make good short-term rentals. They're just different properties. And so I used to always take the other side of that and be like, no, look, if you're buying a hotel, you're not making sure it works as apartments. Like that's just not how it works. You have to, pick your business model and go with it. The difference though was with Airbnbs, you weren't modifying the home, right? You could always just sell it as a single family home if you could no longer use it as an Airbnb. And so that was always my thought of, okay, that's your backup plan. Yes, you maybe are losing out on some transaction costs, but relatively painlessly you can get out of it. With this pad split model where you're like really changing, the character of the home, there isn't, you can't just say, well, if I can't use it as a pad split, I'm going to sell it. Because, okay, well, if the next person can't use it as that, well, then what are we doing? So that's why, that's why my opinion of this model is different from my opinion of Airbnbs. And also it's why I really prefer the ones like the recent Arizona one where it was clearly just a single family home and they like maybe cut up the living room or the dining room or both, maybe did something in the garage, but where you can imagine that, okay, I'm going to convert this back to a single family home and it's not going to be a crazy expense, right? So that's why on these ones I'm really hesitant. Now, if you're just super bullish on this model, you're not worried about, not worried about the city at all, trying to enact something that gets in the way of this, then I think it's a fantastic deal, right? But and especially because as long as that doesn't happen, I can imagine investors really wanting this product in the future. Just like it does well for us, I could imagine, the next buyer is going to want the same thing as the business model gains popularity in that market. And so that's, it's up to you, right? Like for me, I don't think I'm going to buy, I passed on the art house. I think I'm going to pass on this one as well. And for the same reasons, right? That one I had some unanswered questions. This one I don't really have as many, but I am, just looking at this property, I do have that concern, right? Why is that? Keep doing that. All right. I'm going to get used to the new laptop eventually. And yes, I was playing Roblox with my kid before I started this video. Now, obviously, you get the new laptop, you got to, you have to download Roblox right away. Oh, that's what's happening. I forgot about this. This is a touch screen, so every time I'm getting my hand too close to there, I'm touching it. Not used to the touch screen. Sorry about that. Man, this video is just full of mistakes, but you're used to that for me. I think that's really it, though, about this property. If there's more, I will just do an update video because I'm sure you've had enough of this. Until next time, I'm just going to keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.